Hey, welcome to the Phil Garris Show. Today is September 29th, podcast number 21. We have an exciting show for you today. Why the two-party political system has failed the American people. We'll be right back. Hang on to your handlebars, and here we go.
Educational, informative, controversial content to keep you free. This is the Radio for Freedom Network, featuring The Phil Garris Show, broadcasting from the city beautiful Orlando, Florida.
Hey, welcome back to the show. And today we're going to talk about why the American two-party political system has failed the American people. When I started doing research on this show, I was absolutely flabbergasted, or I should say I was disgusted, about all the atrocities that were committed under the two-party system of Republican and Democrat presidents. When you look at American history, even if you just start at World War II, the types of political assassinations, rapes, murder, and overthrowing of democratically elected leaders of countries around the world is astounding. In fact, I even found evidence under the FBI and the CIA have killed American citizens. This is what a two-party system has done for the American people. So next time, when someone asks you, why are you voting third party? Voting third party throws your vote away. You need to tell them, if you vote third party, you're not voting for a duopoly that has controlled the entire world and engaged in political assassination, murder of American citizens, raping and pillaging of other countries, and misappropriating the funds of the United States so only 1% of the people in the United States control the money. There was no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They both enjoy control of the world, and they are the New World Order. It has been that way for a long time, but we're going to start right around World War II, and we're going to discuss a few of these atrocities that was committed by the United States under the two-party system. In 1947, the United States created the National Security Act. Under this act, it created the CIA, who was only accountable to the President of the United States. The first action of the CIA was in 1948. It was called the Office of Policy Co-Coordination. This office was led by a Wall Street banker. Also during that year, in 1948, the CIA disrupted elections in Italy, in which the United States thought the Italian communists were about to win the election. The CIA overthrew the elections in a sovereign nation. In 1949, the United States created Radio Free Europe, which broadcasted propaganda throughout Europe and the rest of the world. By the late 40s, the United States started Operation Mockingbird. This was a disgusting program and undermined the Constitution of the United States when the CIA began recruiting American journalists and subverting them for propaganda purposes and political control. This effort was headed up by Frank Windsor, Allen Dulles, Richard Helms, and Philip Graham. If you don't know who Philip Graham was, he was a publisher of the Washington Post. At that time became a major CIA operative. Later, the CIA was successful in recruiting Time, Newsweek, NBC, CBS, Associated Press, Reuters, the Hearst newspapers. The CIA eventually controlled all the media in the United States. The CIA was in its heyday and still continued. In 1953, the CIA overthrew the democratically elected government of Iran. The CIA heyday continued with Operation MK Ultra. The CIA engaged in LSD experiments on American citizens without their knowledge, which resulted in the deaths of American citizens. The CIA continued its tyranny. In 1954, in Guatemala, the CIA overthrew a democratically elected government in a military coup. In 1954 to 1958, the CIA tried to overthrow the communist government of North Vietnam using its dirty tricks. This eventually led to full-scale involvement of the United States in Vietnam that resulted in over 50,000 Americans being killed. In 1956, the CIA was engaged in Hungary. Radio Free Europe engaged in broadcast in Hungary. It also broadcast Khrushchev's speech in which he criticized Stalin. Between 1957 and 1973 in Laos, the CIA carried out military coups year after year, overthrowing democratic elections. In 1959, the CIA was engaged in Haiti, placed in power a man called Papa Doc. Papa Doc was a tyrant that chopped people up with machetes. In 1961, the CIA was engaged in the invasion of Cuba in the Bay of Pigs. That turned out to be a major fiasco in which thousands of Cuban exiles died. Also in 1961, a very successful year for the CIA, if you want to call it that, the CIA assassinated a dictator in the Dominican Republic because they felt like that he had gained too much economic control in the Dominican Republic and was in competition with American business. So they assassinated him. Also in 1961 in Ecuador, the CIA overthrew a democratically elected president and placed a CIA puppet in control. In Zaire, the CIA overthrew a democratically elected president. In 1963, the CIA overthrows a democratically elected government in the Dominican Republic. Also in Ecuador, the CIA overthrows a democratically elected president of that country. In 1964, in Brazil, the CIA overthrows another democratically elected government. In 1965, the CIA overthrows an elected government of Indonesia. In the Dominican Republic in 1965, a rebellion breaks out. U.S. Marines and the CIA jump into action and crush this rebellion. In Greece, the CIA removed the king of Greece and installed a U.S. puppet. In the Congo, the U.S. CIA installs a dictatorship. In 1966, the CIA engages in the Ramparts affair, in which it pays the University of Michigan $25 million to, quote, hire professors to train South Vietnamese students in covert operations and police methods. Man, it's just endless, I'm telling you. This is what a two-party system gets you. Now, in 1968, the tyranny starts against American people. In Operation Chaos, we find out that the CIA had been illegally spying on American citizens since 1959. President Johnson boosted the efforts of the CIA to go undercover as student radicals to infiltrate organizations of American citizens. Again in 1968, in Bolivia, the CIA organized military operations to capture government officials. In 1969 in Uruguay, the CIA brings in a torturer to help torture political dissidents in Uruguay. Torture becomes widespread. In 1970 in Cambodia, the CIA overthrows the government because Cambodia wanted to stay out of the Vietnam War. In 1971 in Bolivia, the CIA overthrows elected President Juan Torres. In 1971, Haiti, Papa Doc dies, leaving his 19-year-old son, who became a butcher and a dictator of this country, continued with the CIA's and the American government's knowledge. In 1972, we see the American government trying to clamp down on the CIA. Congress votes to cut off CIA funds for the CIA's secret war in Cambodia. And in 1972, we had the Watergate break-in, where Nixon sends a team of burglars to break into the Democratic National Headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. In 1973, the CIA overthrows the leader of Chile. In 1975 in Australia, the CIA topples the elected government of Australia. In Angola, Henry Kissinger launches a CIA-backed war in Angola. In 1979, the CIA fails to protect the Shah of Iran. The Shah of Iran is overthrown and American hostages are taken. In 1981, the Iran-Contra scandal begins. We found out that the CIA was selling arms to Iran and using the profits to arm the Contras. In 1983, the CIA gives Honduran military officials the Human Resources and Exploitation Training Manual. I didn't know we had such a thing, which teaches how to torture people. In 1986 in Haiti, the CIA decided that they didn't like Baby Doc anymore, and the CIA rigs the upcoming elections in favor of another strongman. In 1993, back in Haiti again, President Clinton didn't like the military dictator of Haiti, and under threat of U.S. invasion, removes the dictator of Haiti, and the CIA installs another government. In the beginning of this podcast, we talked about how the American government has assassinated and killed American citizens. Even though American citizens have been assassinated throughout the entire history of the United States, we're going to talk about recent assassinations under the Houston Plan and under COINTELPRO. The first plan we're going to talk about is the Houston Plan. The Houston Plan was put together by a White House aide, Tom Houston, in 1970. It was first discovered by the Watergate Senate Committee, Senator Sam Erwin. The idea of this plan was to take care of anti-war radicals. It was an intelligence program that was going to be used against citizens of the United States in violation of the Constitution of the United States. It involved burglary, surveillance, concentration camps where Vietnam War radicals, people that opposed the Vietnam War, would be rounded up and sent to concentration camps. It involved the opening of domestic mail. It involved wiretapping. It involved electronic surveillance. A lot of people think the Houston Plan is a template for the Patriot Act that we're suffering under today. By mid-1970, Richard Nixon ratified the program and it became official. Documents were submitted to the FBI, CIA, Defense Intelligence Agencies, and the National Security Agencies. It was going to bring all the intelligence agencies on board to violate the rights of American people. What a lot of people don't understand is that it is illegal for the CIA to conduct surveillance within the United States. The CIA is only authorized to conduct surveillance outside of the United States. Ironically, of all the intelligence services, the only intelligence service and the only person that raised concerns in reference to the Houston Plan was J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. That almost is staggering to believe that, considering J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI headed up the COINTEL program that we're going to talk about in a little bit here. In fact, a lot of people think that J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI gave the green light to Mark Felt to leak stories about the Houston Plan to the Washington Post. These leaks to the Washington Post by Mark Felt led to the exposure of the atrocities of the CIA, the Houston Plan, and the COINTEL program. The COINTEL program was a much older program. It happened before the Houston Plan. The COINTEL program actually started in the early 50s and continued all the way up into the 70s. COINTEL program resulted in the deaths of a lot of Americans. I think the most tragic death is the death of Gene Siebert. Gene Siebert donated money to the Black Panther Party. The FBI found out about this, and when the FBI found out about this, the FBI fabricated a story that leaked it to a Gotham columnist, and a story was published in the newspaper that Gene Siebert was impregnated by a black man. In the early 70s, for a white movie actress to be impregnated by a black man was scandalous. She would certainly have lost jobs in her career over this. And this was the meaning, and this is what the FBI tried to do, was to destroy her life. They succeeded in destroying her life when Gene Siebert committed suicide. Another death is the death of Fred Hampton, a Black Panther leader in Chicago, who was murdered by the Chicago police with the help of the FBI and COINTELPRO. Another sinister program of COINTELPRO is called the Martin Luther King Death Letter, in which the FBI tried to discredit Martin Luther King before he was going to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The letter that was sent Martin Luther King was explaining to him that he was a degenerate and that he had extramarital affairs, and these affairs would be public if he didn't commit suicide. It's hard to believe that all these things happen. I can assure you they're still going on today. We just haven't had a Senator Sam Erwin or Frank Church to go to bat for the American people that believe in the Constitution of the United States. This is why I urge you not to vote for the two-party duopoly system in the United States that has engaged in blackmail, murder, rape of American citizens. Once again, when someone asks you, why would you vote third party, you're throwing your vote away, you should explain to them what the two-party system has done to the people of the United States and the people of the world. It is time for a change. It is time for a political change in the United States and to abolish the two-party system in the United States and make it viable for third parties to have a voice and for normal people to run for president instead of people that are bought and paid for by the military-industrial complex and the monopolies of corporations in the United States. Please vote, and please vote third party, and do not support the two-party system of tyranny in the United States. Thank you very much for listening to the Phil Garris Show, brought to you by Radio for Freedom. I would like to thank the sources for this show: PBS.org, Democracy Now!, Huppy.com, and Steve Kangas have all been a big help in me putting this material together. You can find the Phil Garris Show on radioforfreedom.com and also through other radio platforms on the internet. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.